NBA expansion. You guys up to speed on this one? The
Tell
NBA
us
goes to
more.
Europe. Magic and the Grizzlies, they're in Berlin and London. ESPN reporting that the NBA is sending the Magic and the Grizz to play regular season games in Berlin and London as part of a 3-year Europe expansion plan. What's smarter, European or American expansion first?
I would. I think they both have their merits. I think the two franchises that you would I think most likely talk about are Seattle and Vegas. Those are markets that you're not trying to break into. That you're not there's like these are sustainable markets, especially I would say Seattle. But then you look at the growth that Vegas has had. So you could look at the like, okay, you're adding to what you would imagine very strong like cities. When you go to Europe, you're doing a European expansion, right? You're doing a European expansion. But I think what they're trying to do, in my opinion, is they're trying to. I don't want to say. I don't think that there's going. I don't know if there's NBA teams that will be in Europe because you got to understand. Once you add 3 or 4 European teams, ideally, that's another 100 basketball players. That's where the water down comes in, right? And that's not knocking down the talent, but it's like now you're going to disperse 100. You're going to add 100 new NBA players. Are there 100 good players out there that are NBA ready? What will that do? That's what the cap. That's what this stuff. That's what the dispersion of players and salary caps, so that they can spread out some of the wealth and more teams can have good players. If you ask me which one is probably stronger, I would say like getting those two expansion teams here because there's so much more unknown in Europe. Not saying it won't be successful, not saying that they won't get it, but they're going to work out the kinks. But getting two strong franchises here before expansion to Europe, I think that would be stronger.
My initial reaction was, oh shit, American players better get their shit together. That was real talk. Like the whole expansion thing, I thought Richard dove into it. I haven't really dived into it, like whether it should be overseas or in the States. But I will say this, the NBA being global doesn't help American basketball players. It doesn't help American basketball players. And I'm just thinking about it because I was in the AAU gym for this past weekend, and I'm watching all these kids in there, great talent. And I'm watching these kids in there, and I'm listening to the dads, the moms, the aunties, the grandmas, and they screaming. They want their kid to get 20. They think this kid is better than this kid, the top ranked kids, all this shit, right? In my mind, I'm saying, you motherfuckers don't have a clue. Because they have 6 Wembys in France. They probably have about 7 in each class, 7 Lucas and Jokic's out there that we don't know about. We probably won't hear about them until you probably won't hear about them to the audience till your kid is actually a senior, right? And then in Africa, they probably got
The basketball
30.
Africa League, the
uh,
basketball Africa League, they're looking for those
I'm,
Embiid and those Giannis's and those
I'm
Pascals. They're looking for them.
I'm telling you, and listen, they probably have about 40 over there that they looking at. And it just brings me back to the space of look at who has been our last, MVPs over the last 6 years. We have yet to have an American win the MVP. That tells me that other countries, it's a separation of development in the game of basketball. The NBA is recognizing it. It's a separation when it comes down to a level of professionalism from the Europeans to the Americans, right? We don't hear shit about a Jokic except for him celebrating his horses. We don't hear a fucking thing about Giannis except for when him and his wife go live and they go funny as hell because they talking about maybe having their 5th or 6th kid, or Giannis talking about how horny he is, right? We don't, and when we talk about look SGA, clean cut, we don't hear shit from him. I'm just throwing it out there that when this conversation comes about and we start talking about expansion, yes, we're talking about money, but American kids, athletes, that's trying to get to the NBA, get your shit together. I'm just saying, and that's all. That's why I'm at with it, Alec.
We finished last week's episode with what's up, Rich?
No, I was just going to say, heed the warning of the professionals. Heed the warnings of the professionals. Just like we're telling you, we're telling you that the NBA can look very different. If there's 30% Europeans in 20 years, it could be 50% Europeans. This is factual. Because it's an American league, but it's the best basketball players in the world. They do not care.
Mm-hmm.
Rich, you know Mark Cuban. Is his point, we talked about it last week to end the podcast, him sliding into our comments saying most teams lose money in the NBA. And then, of course, the Bill Simmons conversation about the expansion and the $6 billion. Is his point on why expansion keeps getting delayed, the math doesn't work? Like, does he have...
Well, I think there was multiple streams of incomes. I think a few years ago where you had the regional contracts, then you had obviously the national like money. There were a lot of different ways for you to I think make money or get yourself in a position. Yes, most teams you can say lose money, this and that, but ultimately you cash out at the end. Right? When you buy a team for like Mark Cuban, you buy a team for $250 million. You lose $50 million a year, which you can write off in a lot of areas. So if you lose $50 million over, a 10, 15 year span. So now we're talking about, let's say you're talking about 800 million, right? That you've invested, quote unquote. And a lot of this stuff is written off. When you go and sell the team for $6 billion, that's where you cash out. That's why we've seen Paul Allen out. We've seen Mark Cuban cash out. We've seen the Lakers cash out. We see Boston cash out. We see Milwaukee cash out, right? Like we talk about all of these teams. That's when you make your money is on the cash out. It is some people can have money and be, oh, we're going to forever hold this franchise. But if you can lose $30, $40 million, $10 million, $50 million over a 10-year span, that's $500 million. Over a 20-year span, let's say that's $2 billion, but you're selling your franchise for $6 billion. Like, think about it. So even if you're like, oh, we lose $30 million every year, you're allowed to write that off on your taxes. We know how taxes are very beneficial for billionaires. We know that. So they're not taking that loss. And then they're able to then and go and sell your team for $6 billion, $7 billion, $10 billion like the Lakers. And all of that, $600-700 million that you invested over the 15 years, that's when you get it back.